What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie games, we're going to be taking a look at a title that has utterly, insanely oversized battles, all packaged inside a cookie clicker sort of arrangement that actually ends up leading to absolute insanity. Today we're going to be taking a look at Total Incremental Battle, and that is what you are seeing on screen right now. Thousands of men crashing into each other, all with their upgrades, all with various researches and stuff that you've done in order to make your army more powerful. I've been playing around with it pretty much all day at this point. I think the game is actually really good, so I'm here to put it on your radar. If after watching this you wanted to get the game for yourself, I got a link for you down below in the description. You can check it out there. Then on top of that, you can also take a look down there just in case you wanted to find a whole bunch of other saucy Nerd Castle links, but there you go. So the beginning of the game is actually going to start out humbly. You don't get to get the big battles outside of sandbox mode unless you select that mode, but I will say that the normal gameplay mode is a lot of fun, so we're going to give it a run here today and see how it goes. So at the beginning, like I said, a humble start. We start out with one knight up against their one orc. I do have a time machine available, so what the time machine does is it allows you to speed things up and slow things down. You're not going to have this on your first playthrough, so don't stress about it too much. The first playthrough, honestly, I think gives not the best impression of the game, because without being able to speed up time, you get stuck on these battles for long periods of time where you don't really accomplish much. You just sort of spin your wheels and sit around. Unfortunately, my one knight is getting bodied right now. I'll level him up to level 2. We do have room for 5 knights right now, but I kind of wanted to see how far this guy could go gladiator style. Unfortunately, he did not go that far. Our unit cap is at 5 right now. I'm just gonna go ahead and recruit 5 more guys, and we should be able to steamroll through this without too many problems. We'll send them at each other. Every single time you kill an enemy, you are gonna get XP. It's gonna fill up this meter at the bottom of the screen. Now, XP and money are 2 separate means of progression inside of this game. XP is gonna increase your troop cap, so it's gonna make it so you can have a lot more units, and then money is gonna be used to upgrade your units. Now, every single one of these units, I'm actually just gonna leave this running for a second so that we can play catch up. Every single one of your units in this game has stats. You can actually unfold them over on this side, and it's fairly complex how the game computes how different units perform in battle. Not only do they have attack speed and attack and HP and range, they also have things like size and weight, which I think don't really matter inside this demo right now, but later on down the line it kind of feels like one of the things that's gonna matter, especially if they're gonna be doing giant godlike battles where you're fighting against titans that can wipe out 100 units in one swing, which I absolutely think that this game should do. That would actually be a huge recipe for success right there. We've already hit level 9. Okay, well, these guys are just grinding away over here. Let's get started with it then. So one thing I do like is that this game makes it really easy to replot and replan your army. Everything works exactly how you expect it to work. You can rubber band box things, you can hit the delete key. It's almost like working inside of a visual editor when it comes to setting up your army. And so now that we've got 48 troops ready to go, I kind of just want to make a big ass stack. Let's create a new group of 16 right there, and then we will recruit to that group. Actually, do we have separate groups right here? How is this working at the moment? We don't really have a lot of deployment space to play around with until we get to, I think, level 10 or level 20 when the battlefield expands on out. But for the moment, let's go with a new group of 16 right there. Good. Then we're going to take this group. We're going to expand it out to 64. That way we can just add new guys to it. And there we go. Now we should have the enemy pretty resoundingly beaten in any form of conflict that we decide to throw ourselves on into. And just like that, the Alliance has shown victory. For the first 10 levels, you've only got to do one phase, but once you actually get to progression, so the game knows when you've reached a spot that you've been to already. This is me playing the game after one single prestige. I have beaten this demo. I've gotten all the way up to level 100 and unlocked every single upgrade that's inside the game. However, due to a technical failing, I have to stress this first, not the game's fault. 100% my fault. So for whatever reason, I recorded this video already, and for some reason, it captured the mouse upside down, but the rest of the gameplay completely and totally normal. I cannot explain to you. In my career, I've never seen anything like that happen, and it was just kind of unfixable. So I figured I'd just re-roll my entire account since I wanted to play more anyways, and I wouldn't stress about it too much. But I've only done 1 prestige on this playthrough, and so that's why we're kind of back to where we're... The good news is it kind of makes the viewing a little bit better, because my account at the last time I recorded this game was so advanced that I was just like melting enemies instantly and going through them, and so it wasn't super compelling to watch, I guess. I'm going to go ahead and level up all of my knights right now. We're going to take them up about as high as they can possibly go in terms of upgrades. And then once I've got a little bit more army size to play around with, we are going to bring in archers. As you get to certain breakpoints in this game, they're going to allow you to get new types of units. Now, don't get too excited. The game is fairly simple as it stands right now, and I do think that the complexity and the necessity of the player needing to rearrange their army with varied units in much more variety than they have right now is going to be vital for this game to survive long term. However, this is only the second demo that the developers have put out, and I think that it's pretty fun as it stands at this moment. But there's only 4 units. We've got knights, we've got archers, we've got cavalry, and we've got catapults. I don't know if we'll unlock the stables on this playthrough. It's kind of hard to say, but I'm just going to leave my guys brawling over here and stacking up cash and also getting me some XP. That way I can start to make the army a little bit more badass. Now, when you get past level 20, you're going to start generating prestige points. You can find that through the authority menu on this side. Prestige points are going to allow you to access a new skill tree that are going to do everything around scaling. So everything here is going to increase the amount of XP you get, the amount of money you get. It's going to give you access to formations. It's going to give you access to synergies, which means that when you position units in certain spots relative to other units that are differing types of military, you will get bonuses for that as well. Every single unit in here can also just get flat static boosts to their performance, so like 30% more damage, 30% more health. I do think this menu is going to have to be developed out a little bit further too before the game will stick, but I think that what they have that they're playing around with right now is actually really fertile ground because it leans into something that I think is kind of poignant, and that poignancy is based almost entirely around scale. Now, you saw the battle that we opened up on at the beginning of this game. If they can get an incremental game going where you get to that point where you've got like 5,000, 6,000 units crashing into 5,000 or 6,000 units, and then also maintain the strategic layer where placing your units intelligently is actually a big part of combat, because one thing I've noticed about this game, having now played it for 10 or 11 hours, yeah, that's how much I've played this demo. After playing for 10 or 11 hours, one thing that I've noticed is strategy actually kind of matters. If you have 50,000 troop power and they have 100,000 troop power, that's totally winnable right there. You're just going to have to move your formations around. You're going to have to change the way that they block on up. Right now, we only have 1 formation available because metagame-wise, I haven't unlocked like lines, wedges, circles, all that kind of stuff. But you do get those as the game goes along. Maybe we'll get an opportunity to see them here today. Let me go ahead and delete my entire army and let's start over from scratch. Although, what I start over from scratch with is actually going to be really simple. It's going to be 64 archers, and it's going to be 64 melee swordsmen. I'm also going to take these archers, and I'm going to level them up about as high as I possibly can. We will run this, and we'll see how the fight goes. I get the feeling that we're just going to tear through orcs for a little bit until I need to readjust everything. So let's get some progression moving, and I'll just spend my money as we go along in varying areas. That way we can keep developing on out, making sure that the orc horde gets put down the way they deserve to get put down. How dare those greenskins rock up inside human society and human culture and think that they're going to knock over our beautiful castles? Absolutely not. There are no castles and stuff inside of this game, and in fact, that is one big suggestion that I have for the developers, is that like every 20 levels or so, there should be a keystone battle against some kind of legendary enemy like a dragon, a titan, a cyclops, something that's very large and takes up a big chunk of the screen. Your other obvious thing that you could do here is the battlefields aren't really a character as you know it inside the game right now. And what I mean by that is they have a big opportunity here to actually bring geography and topography and terrain into this game to make battles matter as well. And so those capstone battles could be things like sieges, where you're rocking up on some walls over here and you got to destroy some buildings that are behind it. They could take all kinds of forms, where you've got like rivers running through with choke points and you've got to position appropriately in order to hold off the enemy. Lots of opportunities here to make the game strategically viable that aren't being seen inside of this this demo, but I do highly recommend that they do that because it'll make for some absolutely fantastic clips. It'll make for some really great screenshots that'll spruce up the Steam page as well, and when people see that stuff, they tend to click and get involved. It looks like my melee is getting steamrolled over, so I'm just going to level them up as much as I can possibly because they made it all the way back to my ranged line right there, and I don't like that one tiny little iota. They've brought in a new type of unit, so enemies do also have varied types of units. I think for the orcs right now, what they've got is they've got axemen, they've got shield bearers, they've got archers, and I think they have something else, although you don't really see them by the end of the 100th level inside of this demo. They just kind of keep getting more sophisticated formations of shieldmen, axemen, and archers that you've got to reason your way around, otherwise you get whittled down and you get hard stuck, and you end up farming a bunch of gold to brute force your way through it by increasing unit stats. So it looks like we're still, well, the enemy is at the exact same amount of power as we are right now, but the battles seem to be going decently well, just because it looks like they've got a bunch of shield bearers, and then they're just putting axemen on the sides of it, and it looks like our melee is kind of pulling through. I got a bunch of money that I haven't spent just yet, but units do have resistances, they do have attributes, and they do have traits. So if you go to each of these units up in the top right-hand corner, you can find out whether they're infantry, whether they're cavalry, whether they're mechanized. They also have a thing over here which tells you what weapon they're using, and there is a rock paper scissors system inside this game where different units hit versus different units. So like my melee guys are really good against dudes that have shields for whatever reason. They're also really good against pikemen. That's the other unit that orcs have. They have pikemen. Under no circumstances in this game should you ever run your cavalry into a line of pikemen. They basically melt them instantly. Cavalry, they have no defense against pikemen. They just flatly lose. But as I was saying, we have traits over here that are going to determine where you want to put things in your formation. Once you get to the harder battles, in order to maximize the amount of damage output that you're playing around with. You also have this over here. It'll give you like a vague suggestion where you should put these guys in your formation. Although I feel like most people are smart enough to know that archers go in the back. Swordy, stabby guys, they probably go out in the front. Looks like we're losing that one, so it's time for us to reconfigure. I think we probably have too many archers right now, and we need to have like a more consolidated front line. So I will take a new group, I think, of like, yeah, let's just put 32 of these guys, and we'll keep them along the flanks right here so that they can draw on in. In fact, I might do that twice more. That way we can have like a wider flank, because there is flanking damage in this game. There is pincer damage. There is surrounding bonuses that you get. The game doesn't do a fantastic job at telling you when you're getting those bonuses, but they do exist. You'll notice once you get cavalry, if you bring them out and around and then charge into the back of enemies, Rome Total War style, they do seem to get some kind of multiplicative bonus that makes them very effective at killing off the bad guys. Our power has gone up a little bit. I'm just going to strengthen the front line since we're running a very real front line strategy right now, and then we'll just let it run for a little bit. We still haven't reached the point where we're getting prestige points, so I'll probably bring you back once we get to that point. There we go. Now we're generating some prestige points. The downside is that the enemy has figured out that if you sharpen a stick and you throw it at the enemy, it does a lot of damage, and so we're going to have to learn to deal with that as time goes along. But you can see how rapidly, just inside of 10 minutes, this game goes from like one unit attacking one unit to like hundreds of units attacking hundreds of units, and I think that scale is really going to benefit the developers when it comes to promoting their game. I really sincerely do. If there's one thing I love, it's just spectacle, and I'm glad to see so many incremental games kind of embracing that idea and realizing that, like, hey, an incremental game doesn't necessarily just have to be a collection of menus with numbers ticking upwards that players can play around with. We can actually put a visual component inside of this thing to make it bump and to make people take GIFs and like take videos and stream it to their friends and be like, yo, I've been going wild on this game right here. Looks like we're doing pretty solid inside of stage 20. We're only getting like 14 prestige points right now, but I do think that if we stick to it, we should be able to pull something together. Unfortunately, my troops got absolutely ate by all these dudes out here. For whatever reason, human beings don't have access to shields, so I can't really reconfigure my front line for these big archer shootouts. The best that you can do is you can put together a formation, and their entire function is just going to be to get shot in the face while your archers close the gap and take care of these dudes. Still, with our power level where it's at right now, I do feel like we're doing decently okay. Let's speed things up to ×4 because I do find that these ranged shootout fights, they tend to like take a lot of time and drain a lot of effort. There we go. We're only on phase 3 right now. Bummer. Well, we're cutting through them on that side, so that's good. And look at the gold grow over on this side. One has to question yourself, like inside a kingdom like this, why does anybody do anything other than kill orcs? This seems to be by far the most lucrative avenue for making sure your family's secure in the near future. Maybe polish up that brokerage a little bit, keep yourself well invested off of the random orc stonks that you're accumulating in your portfolio. I don't know, dude. Going to war seems awful profitable inside this universe, and as you get up to like level 100, this will max out. This is one of those games where you don't stop when you get millions of gold. You can get like, you know, 76 QR of gold if you've ever played like super deep incremental games like Cookie Clicker that go on forever. You know what I mean? That is a lot of archers, dude. That is a serious quantity. We're having to close like a major gap right now in order to get after him. Okay, so we may need to reconfigure a little bit and play around with our army just to see what we can get our hands on here. It actually looks like just leveling up my melee took care of it, but I will more than likely pause momentarily and see if I can add a few more units to my roster. We're sitting at level 15 right now, but it has not escaped my notice that we're actually very slowly making progress at this point. I would like to unlock, so the next thing that we get at level 40 is called Annihilation Mode. What Annihilation Mode does, Annihilation Mode, it keeps track of how many kills you've gotten on the battlefield, and every X amount of kills, the game is going to give you a token. You can spend that token to flatly increase the damage, the movement speed, the defense, you name it. You can change just about every attribute of all of your units in this game using annihilation points. At level 50, you're going to get access to research. So there's a research menu inside of this game, and based on how much money you've spent buying researchers and also buying research equipment, there will just be a timeline up here. So your research will take like 4 hours at your current level of research. And when research is complete, your units get like plus 100% HP. They might get 100% attack. They might unlock like a new formation or like a new strategy that you could play around with. All of those things are on the table. I don't know if we're going to unlock them here today, but I still have the footage from when I pre-recorded this video last time, and so maybe I'll splice in some of that and give you a look at it. That way you can actually see what those systems look like. I was kind of hoping that we would progress to them here today, but it looks like I've mistimed the video. So what am I sitting on right now? I'd like to wait for the next level up, honestly, before I start throwing money around, I think. With 32 more units available, we're also going to have to like shift around our formations up here, I think, because they're using line formations and stuff against us that are going to be a little bit of a headache. With these archers right here, what do I have available if I get rid of those archers? So it looks like I have access to 64 more units. So what we'll do is we'll go with like 4 of these dudes right here, and we're just going to kind of carefully position them around all the areas where there's going to be a clash, and hopefully the enemy doesn't break through. I think that should give us the oomph. Yeah, that's what I was looking for, is we needed like hard counters along the flanks in order to get through that battle right there. Love to see it. Continue churning orc blood, boys. I expect many skulls from each and every one of you by the time we get out of here. How we looking on cash right now? On cash at the moment, we actually have enough to level up our stuff pretty aggressively. I'm gonna put it all into archers, although from dumping all that money, I didn't see like a massive power increase. Still, it looks like my archers are now one-shotting the orc archers, so that should make things flow a little bit better. We are getting, if we can make it up to like a higher stage, that would be good. I would like to make it so that I get some serious prestiging out here. Okay, so we have been stopgapped right here, and so we're gonna have to reconfigure things. They keep shifting their line around and making this difficult. I'm just gonna delete everything straight off the rip. It doesn't matter. The longer you take in the planning phase, the more your time machine charges up so that you can use fast forward. It's a weird mechanic, but I actually kind of dig it, in all honesty. It kind of forces you to watch the battles from time to time, and it also encourages you to sort of like take your time when it comes to putting this stuff together. So we're gonna have like, I think we're gonna have 64 right there. I think I would like to go like that. Yeah, that'll work. Let's take a new group of 16 and we'll kind of put them over here, and we'll recruit like another 16 on top of them. Why are these guys on 64 mode? Are they all on 64 mode? Hold on. I gotta put these guys on 16 mode. There we go. So give me new groups, like so. That's absolutely perfect. We'll have like a row of guys over here to protect the flanks a little bit. There are gaps in our line right now that make me feel a little bit nervous, but I think if we can just reinforce it a little bit along sides, like so, we should be all right, and then we'll just fill in the rest with archers. I don't know if I want the archers like at the center of this column. That may be the way to do it. I need this to be symmetrical. There's just something, I require symmetry inside my strategic deployment, okay? Let's run that back and we'll kind of see how it goes this time. All right, boys, get in there, take some scalps, get out. Really, all my melees on this one are just like drawing fire until we can wipe out the enemy formation. Once the archers start closing the gap, things should get a little bit better. Yeah, I think we're in solid shape. Okay, let's let it run for a little bit, see if we can make it up to stage 30 and unlock our stables. Another important thing to note is you can give unit orders from right here, and you can actually chain them out too, so I could tell them to go out there and then hit from right there. This will become more necessary as the enemy develops a lot more serious strategies. So like for example, on this one, I'm having a problem where these flanking units are joining in on this fight and they're getting kited super hard. So instead what we want to do is probably something like that right there, where they ignore the orc forces and they go straight for the archers right at the outset. And look at that, it was a decisive loss the last time I ran this battle, and just by swapping around the strategy. That's kind of what I like about this game though. That's what I dig about it, is that the strategic layer remains relevant as long as you are on content that is equal to the army that you're currently building. Moving things around inside of like small power adjustments actually matters. Using different strategies will work out for you, and I think that's what the game is probing for. That's why some of the orc setups in this game are actually kind of like wild and outlandish and out there. I'm gonna upgrade my archers a little bit just to give me a little bit of extra pop so that maybe they clear center field a little bit faster. Yeah, because we're definitely going to need that. Like, those guys are sort of holding aggro up there. Ooh, they actually managed to beat us on that one. Okay, well, more reinforcements are more than likely not coming. We're kind of hitting the point where we're not getting enough XP for our army to get larger. So I do think that a prestige is more than likely in our future. I would still like to hang in here until we get cavalry, though, because cavalry are going to be a big force multiplier for just making our armies work better. I mean, we did make it to the next stage, though. Like, I thought that we were flatly going to lose right there, and it looks like this stage is kind of a gimme. I don't think we're going to struggle too much with this one. Just keep boosting up frontline units so that the archers can do their thing with their 50% damage bonus. And then I just want to hit 30. That's all I want to do, is I want to hit level 30, get cavalry, we'll do a prestige, and then what I'll do is I'll play us back up as far as we possibly can and then cut you back in for like that final moment right there so that you can see how far I was able to elevate my account inside of like an hour of gameplay. So we're kind of coming up on level 30 right now. We got 2 more stages left to knock out, and then we'll have access to cavalry, which I think will change things around, most especially with just like the archery shootouts. You really need something that can charge across the battlefield and take care of business. One little detail that I do like in this game is actually that the bodies stay on the field. I do wish that with the bodies staying on the field, they had like 2 or 3 different death state sprites. That way it would break apart the visual monotony. But little things like leaving the bodies on the field I do think are really rad. And there are our Lancers. So I don't think we're going to go much further. Let's go ahead and just like prestige it now. And at prestiging it now, we really want to focus on upgrading our units and making them better. I will take battle analytics and leveling discount as well, just because leveling discount actually allows you to go a lot further than you would expect. I'll probably make it so I earn a little bit more money here too. We'll upgrade them about as far as we possibly can. And that'll do for now. I think that's more or less got us set. So our army should be a lot stronger going in on this playthrough. Let's go ahead and recruit one guy, and yeah, he's at 37 power right now, so like double the power that he was at before, and we're earning more money, so that'll all be useful. You just gladiator it up for a little bit. I want to see how you do there, son. And if you manage to hold out and make things happen, I will be very, very proud of you. There will still be no payment, like payroll is not going to arrive. Like, this is more of like a conscription type deal, but we'll all respect you a lot if you manage to defeat the enemy in these overwhelming circumstances. Alas, I think he's going to need some backup. Let's give him a little bit of backup. We'll run like 16 guys right here. Yeah, that'll do it. Hell yeah, and now we're screen clearing. Let's get this thing back to like level 30 and we'll see how the playthrough continues. So back up at level 30, which is that's where we found ourselves kind of hard stuck last time. I do have cavalry now, which you can see right here. So like technically you can see them in action right this second if you wanted to give it the old look. I'll put it on X2 speed real fast. That way you can see what cavalry looks like when they function. Honestly, they tend to be the most effective against like archers and stuff like that. But as you can see, they sort of weaseled their way around and got themselves murdered. But that's because I've been holding all my upgrades and whatnot for when I cut you guys back into the video. So what we need to do now is we're sitting at like 224 guys. The cavalry are not that useful against infantry. They're okay-ish against infantry, but we don't have enough of them massed to turn them into like a heavy cavalry charge. Really more of a light harassment force right now for taking care of archers, so it's not going to help out with a group formation like this. Instead, what I'd prefer to have is maybe another group of archers back here. Give me an X64 archers on this side, and then that leaves me with like another 32 soldiers that I can play around with. Okay, so give me like a little flanky force right there, little flanky blanky force right there. Yup, never go to war without your blanky. I think I should probably spend some of my money on upgrades too. Yeah, I mean, that's probably gonna swing it much more than the strategy here, which is really, I think, the only fundamental conflict this game has going, is that sometimes your scaling can completely and totally ruin any strategy that would have gone into the game in the first place. But at level 30, we're chugging along. Let's see how we're doing at level 40, I suppose. So this battle would actually be a really good example of where we need to deploy cavalry at, because they have these archers back here that are placed super far back inside the deployment zone in order to kite. This would be the perfect situation where we can actually figure out like a cavalry type situation. So with cavalry right here, let me level them up real quick so that they're on par with everything else on the field. I want you guys to right out to here, right out to here. There you go, and just sweep them. Just like so. Sweep the leg while these guys are fighting center field. They should be drawing fire anyways, and looky there, dude. Cavalry just made that a lot simpler than it was before. I was getting kited like crazy before we took care of that, but that's the perfect example of where cavalry are actually going to split a fight, where the enemy, based on their positions and their formations, have a force multiplier to their overall power rating that unfortunately your army just getting kited around is really going to have trouble taking care of at face value. But that's the perfect example of where we would deploy cavalry, and that's one of the things that makes this game so nice, is that it's hyper easy to just rearrange your forces. It takes like 10 seconds to delete your entire army and redeploy everything. Once you get formations, it gets a little bit more complex. You've got to kind of learn what happens when a wedge runs into a square, or like when a line gets hit by a wedge, and you got to learn to like predict what's going to happen, but we don't have those mechanics yet, so it doesn't matter. Honestly, my current configuration is kind of hard shitting on what the enemy's got going on here too. Like, these cavalry over here are taking scalps, boy. They're putting numbers on the board. These poor little archers just get mulched every single time that they come through. Just reduced to grass feed. What makes the grass grow? Blood, blood, blood. What do we have going on over here? No, don't do that. Let's go ahead and cancel that real quick. I definitely don't want you guys to do what you're doing right now. Do that. That right there, perfectly acceptable. What you were doing previously, not acceptable in the slightest. Just a terrible idea. Let's see if that works. Okay, they're coming around the mountain. When they come, yep. Hey, perfect. Archers obliterated. Ooh, stage 40 is kind of an ugly one. I think they've got around 400 archers all the way back line. We're going to have to put on our thinking caps for this one if we want to unlock annihilation mode. So, what am I looking at here? Like, obviously, infantry is not going to get it done. I think that if we have one less infantry column and we spread these guys out a little bit, I could fix this with a line formation of archers, but not gonna work for right now. Instead, let's tighten these guys up right here. I'm gonna spend some money upgrading my horsemen. And I don't think 16 horsemen is gonna be enough to actually get this finished off. Let's run that real quick and just see how that goes. Like, if the horsemen accomplish anything. Okay, so horsemen accomplished, like, jack squat nothing. We did get further on that one than we might have, but I think that's life. Okay, well, let's reconfigure it a little bit more. I mean, maybe we just turn this all into a giant cavalry charge. Maybe that's what we do. No, I don't want you to be on 64 stacks. I want you guys to, like, nope, stop going to 64 stacks. What I need is, we're gonna go new group, and with all these groups right here, we're gonna try to give this a go. I don't know if it's gonna work, but we're gonna see. Let's just run it and see what happens. Okay, significantly worse. It's because my Lancers, they have no upgrades right now, and so we're not gonna be able to do much there. Let's try this and see how this goes. Okay, it's looking pretty good so far. Oh, it fell apart right at the end, dude. We're so close. Huh. Okay, I think I have it configured such that we win. Like, I think we're in a spot right now, unless the enemy just scales wildly, that I think we've got level 40 knocked out so that we can get access to annihilation mode. I think we've got it figured out. I did have to reconfigure my formations and, like, stack up some levels and stuff, though, too, just because the enemy is sort of outstatting and outscaling me right now. Oh, you're going to have it last on, like, okay, so it's going to be like that, huh? You're going to have it get stuck on the final phase. No, you're not. All right, we made annihilation mode. So annihilation mode is exactly what it sounds like and what I described earlier. You get kills for every single one of these. I would recommend turning it into skulls or something instead, so that, like, little skulls are popping up above here. Treat it as, like, tribute to the king for making you stronger, but every single time we kill an orc, this is going to go up, and every single time it hits the required number, we're going to get a token. Right now, we can only buff health and attack, but later on, you'll have defense, you'll have movement speed, you'll have attack speed, you'll have weight. All of those things will be modifiable on each of your units. Why are they charging that center line right there? That's a very, very odd decision to make, my boys. Let's actually pull this back a little closer, then turn it right there, because they have inertia to them when they're charging the field. There you go. Look, see, you took care of it. Unfortunately, the enemy spearmen are surviving the battle, which is making this a little bit more complicated. I can only bring in, like, I don't know, a couple more guys, like 32 more guys. Okay, well, give me 2 groups of archers to maybe help shave off, and we'll put them up here to get rid of some of these spear guys out here. They're not going to help at all with the dudes with the shields, but they are additive DPS that will help out on other fronts. Just barely pulled that one through, if I'm being honest with you, but we've got a big old grip of prestige points that are going to be coming in when we get done with this run, so that should allow us to increase everybody's strength by like 200, 300%. But closing thoughts about this one. I actually think this is a really good idea. Like, you know, I'm not the biggest person when it comes to incremental games. I tend to like things like what we just featured, Vanguard Galaxy, where there are incremental aspects to it that I can use to streamline the grind process. But in the case of Total Incremental Battle, I think they've got something here. Like, I think they have lightning in a jar. I think people are going to dig this, because rather than being the same sterile menus that you always seem to get from games like this, where it's just a bunch of windows. You click on them, the number goes up, and then you watch a number go up faster and faster and faster. There is a strategic and also a visual component to this game that a lot of the competition simply does not have. This is the exact same reason why I like the Orc Warband game that we played last week, is because, yeah, it's actually a game that has some strategy to it aside from just the normal clicker sort of number go up gameplay. Like, arranging your troops in this game does matter. It will furnish you with victory over overwhelming forces, even though you have like a much weaker power counter. If you have a solid strategy, you can make it a couple levels further just by being smart in this game, and I dig that a lot. A few observations. The one big thing that I found irked me as I started to get towards level 100 is that instead of the battles getting bigger and bigger and bigger and the enemies getting more numerous, instead what tends to happen is the enemy still only has like 300 guys, but they get crazy stat bloat. So there is sort of a hard cap on how big and beefy the battles can get by the time you get to level 100. So I would say maybe open up the spectacle a little bit more. By level 100, we should be seeing like the bigger, nastier battles like the one that I opened on with in sandbox mode, but it's really not that big of a problem. I do think that they have some good supplementary mechanics here with researching using real-time values. I definitely like the annihilation mode feature. I think that's a really good plan. There's also a tab called World that I have no idea what that's going to do. Like, are we going to be running a campaign? Are we going to be orchestrating logistics? Are we going to have farms and things that allow us to generate gold passively? I don't know. Is there going to be like a Conquer map that we have to take over? I don't know, but I'm interested to see what's inside of there because, like I said, I played this entire demo all the way through in one sitting and wanted to come back and do it again, and that's a really, really good sign. From there, I do think that they're going to need a lot more unit variety when they go into a finalized version. Those units are going to have to be highly specialized to accentuate the strategic elements of the game in order to keep people compelled to keep playing. I do think it'd be a really good idea, too, for every 20 or 30 levels, they break it apart with a boss battle. I mean, this is a game with such absurd amounts of units that you could bring in a giant Cyclops that takes a big chunk of the screen, or like a giant Kraken monster that takes up a big chunk of the screen, and every time he attacks, like 50 guys die. They're flying all over the place. There's explosions going off, killing your dudes. A really, really good opportunity here for some visual fanfare to make the game feel epic when you get to certain breakpoints. I also think that the terrain is a little bit boring. I do think that in the finalized version of the game, there should also be sieges, like you should be attacking castle walls. There should be maps that have choke points and they have areas that you can gather up your troops, or like towers that need to be taken over, and you've got to do a little bit of micro control just to break apart the incremental gameplay with something that, you know, something that just scratches the intellectual strategy noodle every now and again that maybe numbers can't bash your way through, just to keep the player engaged with the game. But for right now, this is actually the perfect example of a simple game that like a first-time developer could make that works pretty well. It's addictive. It's well put together. My name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what's worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day so that you don't have to. Today up on the chopping block, it was Total Incremental Battle. Tomorrow will be something else. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll catch y'all later, folks. Bye.